So, welcome to another Inwards and Upwards show. And I've got another wonderful guest from New Zealand, but she's in Paris at the moment, so don't get confused by that. But we've got Amanda. Amanda is in France, and so she's not going to be laughing too much because she's hurt her ribs. So I'm going to try and keep the jokes to a minimum, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But Amanda, please introduce yourself to the people watching.
Absolutely. Yeah, lovely to be here, Peter. So my name's Amanda McKay and I'm an emotional wellbeing coach for women, in particular mothers. I specialize with mothers because I really do believe it's the most important job we can do is look after our own emotional health, and then pass on those beautiful patterns to our children, because that really is the blueprint for our children's adult life and for their future. So really exciting work I do coaching women, and just like you, just have a real passion for helping humans delayer and just get to their authentic self so they can live out a life of peace. You know, that inner peace is just so important.
Yeah, that's what I found. I came out of the rock field. I was a rock musician, professional rock musician for about 10 years. And when I trained in karate, well, Taekwondo, Bruce Lee's type of Taekwondo before that. And that was really helpful because it got me really fit. And actually, I think it helped me survive the music business because that was very unhealthy. And I got really fit before I'd done that 10 years. And it kept me going, I think. And then when I came out of the music business, I was a complete wreck. And I took up Ki Gong. I didn't realize it was Ki Gong at the time, but I wasn't worried about being in classes full of women. It didn't bother me at all because I was used to group classes. But a lot of men are going, "Oh, I'm not going in there. There's loads of women in there." Okay, don't be so stupid. But it was really eye-opening to me how much connecting with your authentic self is so important in today's world because we're so distracted with everything going out all the time, and we're not
Mm.
coming back in. And I remember lying there, and I'd have my fingers would be twitching. Going, what's that? And then I couldn't keep my eyes closed because the instructions like eyes closed, eyes closed. As you're lying on the floor after quite a heavy session, and my eyes kept opening. Nope, shut your eyes. And I couldn't connect inside. And as soon as I started doing that, whoa, did things start to change. And when I started to move in a softer manner, because when we get tense and stressed, our shoulders go up, that's right. And we go, and as soon as it all dropped and I started to flow with my energy, it was a beautiful feeling. I thought, yeah, I get what they're saying now. We're energetic beings. We're not physical beings. We're actually energetic beings at our core. And we are actually
Mm.
coming out, manifesting into physicality. And a beautiful scientist said, who's like a really high credited scientist, said, we're all children of the field. We're all emerging from this field. So, how deeply do you go into? Because I'm really into spirituality, and in the sense that we are energetic beings, which never get destroyed. How deeply is your coaching go into spirituality? I'm just interested.
Yeah, we go deep because we are energetic beings. You
Hmm.
know, what we think and feel is what gets dispersed into the world. And it's also
Yes.
what we attract, right?
Yes.
And so when we're dealing with mothers and their children, you know, a lot of people say, oh, monkey see, monkey do. And that absolutely kids see what you do and they copy because that's their only, blueprint right there. But it goes so much further than that. And I coach women, it's more than just what you're saying to your children, what you're doing, and that's a huge part, but it's what you're thinking and feeling that gets passed down. And that's a lot of what I coach on is that generational patterning of thinking and feeling. So some women will show up with tendencies for anxiety or depression, and often it's not their own. Often it's just a learned energetic pattern from their mother and from their grandmother and so on. So we do go into that, and it's quite mind blowing for these women because suddenly it's like, oh, it's not my fault, you know. And there's also that other aspect to it. And here are the tools to change. Here are
Yeah.
the tools to actually strip back, meet with your inner child, and show up that the way you want to show up for your children, so that you can be calmer and less reactive, so that you can build that unbreakable bond where, because your energy and your thoughts and feelings are more positive, and more loving for self and them and for the world, then your kids, you do become your first number one go-to, even as your kids move into adulthood. And there's a lot of mothers that come into my realm who don't turn to their mothers when they'd like to. Even as adults, they crave that love from their mothers, and or they're grieving for what they didn't have. So being able to coach women as mothers to be that safe space for their children,
Yeah.
to be that regulated, have that regulated nervous system, to show up calm no matter the circumstances because they have that emotional and spiritual connection. And you asked earlier about the spirituality. And, if we're working on emotional health, we're working on spiritual health. They tie together, they go hand in
Yes.
hand.
I agree with you. Because if you think about the physical reality and time, we're in like a time-space dimension. Emotions and thoughts are not in this dimension. They're from a different dimension, and that's a physical fact. It's like a scientific fact. Because if you think about
Absolutely.
time, yeah, time is when you're into something really joyful, the time shoots by. You think, oh goodness me, is that really over? Or if you're into something really tedious, the clock goes it's like so slow. And this is our emotions and feelings and thoughts that are not connected there. We can't see them. And I love what you're saying about the attraction, the law of attraction. There's the law of vibration and the law of attraction. And these are hermetic principles, written thousands of years ago, which Triscus, whatever his name was, I can't remember his name, but he took that from like the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which came back to the Sumerian texts, which go back thousands of years. And these are what our ancestors worked out. And we kind of lost that in the Western world with the hurry to speed up. It's like Gandhi said, there's more to life than increasing its speed. And that's what we seem to be doing in the West, especially in the Western influenced world. We seem to be speeding up. And the rest of the world is kind of
Yeah.
following that.
Yeah,
And
we're
what,
speeding up in this culture. We notice that with women as well, the whole rushing woman syndrome, right? And it's
yes,
not only the speeding up, it's the gathering of more and more and more. Um, Living in that place of lack where we don't have enough, we are not enough, our kids are not enough, and coming back to what you said earlier, it's that whole living outside yourself, not living within. And we live
yes,
out without, and one of the things I see often is comparison, and comparison leads to a real lack of inner peace. Comparison leads to criticism, it leads to complaining, the three C's. And when you're
yes.
living in those three C's, comparison, criticism, complaining, you're not living within yourself.
No.
And living within yourself, you have this incredible abundance and abundant living. And that's on a spiritual level, that's how we're designed to live in abundance.
Yes. If you think about it, we got it the wrong way around. The material world, we're thinking about going out, but
Mm-hmm.
we never go in, and that's what's inside is supposed to be going out, and what's outside is supposed to be coming in. So we're supposed to be learning from what's coming in so that we can grow from the inside. And that's how we're designed as human beings. This is our blueprint. And it's the wrong way around. It's like we're going out and out and out trying, what more can I get? What more can I get? Oh, but I'm not, am I worthy of having this? Am I worthy of a good life? Am I worthy of love? Am I worthy? All of this is like playing on the minds. I love that idea about the subconscious, and you're talking about frequencies and brain waves, and when we're 0 to 7, that time with our mother in particular, me even as a young boy with my mother was my best friend. Unfortunately, she died when I was 11, but I was so sensitive to all of this kind of spiritual stuff. I could see I had 5 brothers and going, what's the matter with these boys? They're all crazy. And she used to sit and actually listen to me and talk to me. And my father didn't quite understand me, but he respected my relationship with my mother. But it was that 0 to 7 of how much she took care of me. I realized there was a trust and a love there, and I was blessed because I know many children don't get that. My wife didn't get that with her mother, and you can see the effects of that now. Those formative years, isn't it? The first 7 years, I feel that when mothers
Uh,
can
uh,
really. get into. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? The first 7 years in the
Oh,
theta brainwave.
oh, 100%. It's really interesting because I know in New Zealand, in many countries where, well, most, I believe, we are taken to, we take ourselves off to prenatal classes and go to antenatal classes and we learn how to feed, change, burp the baby. I don't know, but there's just no courses on emotional health, and yet it's the most important thing. So,
Mm,
like you were saying before, the feedback from the outside world coming in, that's exactly what our emotions are. Our emotions are messages, and we never taught that. Most of us haven't been taught that by our parents, or definitely not in the schooling system.
mm,
And we're educated in every other way. And women today are incredible. They've done so well for themselves in society and in our communities. And, you know, I do believe the health of the mother really does manifest in the health of the world. In other words, the health of the children.
yes.
Um, so I think that going back to that, oh, sorry about that, just dropped the phone. Going back to the emotions and messages coming in, um, if women can really learn emotional mastery, which is what I teach, and learn about the brainwaves and learn about, the brain is moldable. So what we learnt and what we were programmed, what we downloaded in those first 7 years ourselves doesn't have to remain the same. And so many of us, we are reactive. We might yell at the kids, or we might go into a withdrawal as soon as our kids are having emotions. We might pull back because we just don't know what to do with their emotions, let alone our own, right? And this is how it
Mm,
manifests in mothers. And a lot of mothers just are resigned and go, oh, well, it's just the way I am. Or another thing they say is, oh, my kids will be fine. I turned out all right. My kids will be fine. And it really does your children an injustice because whilst you downloaded and were conditioned and took on patterns in those first 7 years, you have, as humans, we have every ability to change those brainwaves, to get in there and that's what I teach women in the third step, which is the confidence stage, which is here's how you do it. Here's how you interrupt those
mm,
brainwaves and take on a new pattern. And
mm.
I've done it. My clients have done it. It's completely possible. It's just something that you've got to trust in the process, and obviously trust the guide, and you absolutely get there. And I see women, especially when I work with them long term, like maybe 6 to 9 months, and they almost don't recognize themselves at the end.
Beautiful.
They're like, oh, I'm just so calm. I'm like, absolutely, calm is now a part of your DNA. And you thought
Mm,
it wasn't, but it is now. And it's just
yeah.
the transformation is just beautiful.
Oh, I can feel your passion, man. It's beautiful to it's no, because I've done the same with coaching. When I coach women, I get a lot of women coming into my Ki Gong classes, and one of them actually recently came in. She was looking for an exercise class, and she didn't know anything about Qigong and the spiritual aspects to it, really. And then she said, yeah, I'm getting fitter and healthier, but I didn't realize that my spirituality would grow through this. It's all about you and your nervous system and how we're trained or tuned in to the field around us. Well, like our schooling didn't ever teach us any of this. We just, like you said, it's all left brain, really all focused on how to make money and how to do this or how to do that. Or my wife was really scathing of the education system because she said, "Well, all I was taught was how to be either secretary, a typist, or a mother." That was her three choices. And I think personally that I would call it the divine feminine has been crushed in our world because you have women now trying to be like men, which is why do you want to be like a man? For goodness sake, you don't want to be like a man, and men trying to be like women. And but we should be our own true selves, no matter what energy we have in it. If you're a man with more feminine energy, that's okay. If you're a woman with a more male energy, that's okay. But we need to be really focusing on ourselves first, and then finding that empathy and compassion to put out into the world. I feel to make it a better place for everybody, because to bring up children to me and my uh, looking into the Vedic scripts, that is one of the most precious jobs you could ever have. You're actually forming a new life onto this planet that needs to have the best possible start that it can. And because you didn't have
That's
that,
right.
yeah, if you didn't have
Yeah, I
that,
mean,
if you didn't have that start, then where'd you go from there? I know it's difficult, which is what you were saying about the money. Sorry, I interrupted you, but yeah.
no, it's not to you, but that's the thing, and that's the important thing is that we are leaders. You know, mothers are leaders of the world. We are leading the future. We are leading an entire new generation in their thoughts and their feelings, in the way that they're showing up in the world, in the way that they love themselves. And
Yes.
one of the biggest myths, which is really hard to break, and one of the reasons that women hold themselves back from working with me is that they believe that going within or working on themselves and doing the inner work is selfish. Because a
Yes.
mother's job is to look after her children, it's to put everyone
Mm,
else first, it's to make sure everyone else is fed, etc. But it goes back to the old put on your own oxygen mask first,
mm,
right? And you can imagine, a big Swiss ball. And if you're holding that Swiss ball underwater, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy, right? You're holding it down, and you take your hand and mind off at once and it pops up super quickly. And this is what it's like for mothers, especially in their 30s and 40s, is that all their life they've been in that proving energy, the people pleasing energy, really just showing up for the world in a certain way instead of showing up for themselves,
mm,
which is what our children crave. They want us
mm.
to be their leader. They want us to be our authentic self. So what I teach women to do is to let that ball pop up, do the inner work. It's one of the most important things we can do as a mother. If I was told that when I was pregnant before I had my three kids, that would have been gold. Um,
Yeah.
Instead, I worked on it afterwards because I was showing up reactive and there's this anger coming up. I was like, where's that coming from? That's not like
Mm,
me.
mm.
And I felt like I was out of control. I didn't feel like I was in the driver's seat. And that's when I started going down the mind body strengthening work and I became a mind body practitioner. It was the best thing I could have done, not only for myself, but for my children. So, any mothers listening to this or any person, any human, it's not selfish. Do the inner work. It's the best thing you can do for the human race.
Why do you think it's so prevalent that people feel feel like doing the inner work? I'm just interested because I've got my own theories on it, but I'd like to hear what you've got to say about why is it so scary for people to come inside, you think?
Oh, well, people are scared of what they're going to find, right? And that's why you need a coach or a guide, in my opinion. I
Mm,
had one and I still have one, and it's because, if you it's not, I don't know a good analogy, but it's like being given $1 million, like winning the lotto,
yeah.
and then going out and spending it. If you don't have a guide and know how to spend it wisely, it is going to be overwhelming and it's going to bring up stuff for you, right? And maybe that's not the greatest analogy, but it's like when you're going and doing the inner work, a lot of women are like, well, I don't know how. That's the first thing they say to me. I don't know how. I'm like, no problem. I know how. I've done it. It's worked, and I'm
Mm,
going to show you how. And here are the tools. And once
mm,
you've got the tools, it actually becomes really exciting. Once you've had two or three breakthroughs in my presence with my guidance, then I have clients go, oh, it's so exciting. I've had this, I get texts from them later, months later, years later. I've peeled another later. This is because they've got the tools. They know how to
yeah.
do it. They're not scared anymore. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons that people don't want to do the inner work. And
Mm,
they come up with a lot of excuses, like mothers, like I'm too busy, and they are. They're juggling work, they're juggling the masculine. Um,
yeah.
they're running the household. They're leaders in their community. They've got a lot going on. But the thing is that you can't excel in that area for yourself. You can't bring out the best of yourself in those roles until you've, gone and done that in the work. So we do come up with a lot of excuses like I'm too busy or I can't afford it. And as humans, we just come up with excuses all the time.
Yes, yes, no, I get that. But too busy, we've all got the same amount of time in the world. Can't afford it. If you really want to go on holiday, you find the money to go on holiday. If you really want to do this, you find the money to do this. And it's important. I think this is, like you say, personally, I think this is what we all need to be doing. I'm so pleased to report in Korea, South Korea now, they're doing my round of Ki Gong in schools in the curriculum. And when we went over to Korea, I went over to Korea with the British Ki Gong team in 2016, and we met these kids. And oh my goodness me, they were incredible. They were walking around on the hands. They were like different generations from 7, 9, 10, 12, 15, 17, all different ages, all getting on with each other nicely, all playing, all when they got on stage, they excelled, shined. There was no, I didn't see any distinct difference of like groups of boys and groups of girls hanging out together. They all seemed to be sort of playing together, but they all had this sense of excitement and this sense of anticipation that this is life and we're living now, and look at all these strange people from all over the world with us now. And they were curious and open-minded, and it just felt to me, I was just overwhelmed with love, this beautiful feeling of love, that these kids are all so loving and open. And we can get that. We can get that if we do the work and we start to look inside of us. We can create that within our life. I mean, I've done that with my community here in the local area. I've set up little Qigong schools, mainly for the elderly, but I do it for the younger people as well. And one of the classes now is like 40 people. 40 people come in every week. And they come up to me, Peter, thank you so much for your work. And they ask me about their shoulders or their elbows or their heels. And someone who's been training me for me for 10 years, she had an ankle operation, came up to me Wednesday. She came up to me Wednesday, said, "You remember my ankle when you first met me?" I said, "Yeah." I said, look at me now." I said, "Yeah, I've completely forgotten about your ankle. Brilliant." She'd healed herself. So really it's about our intention. I think it's our intention. Well, I know it's our intention. When we intend to actually make a decision to do something, it doesn't matter about the means, it's the will to do it. And you're so right. We're almost like salespeople for spirituality, because it is the inner journey that's going to really improve your outer life. And I feel that's such an important part of all of this. But it is difficult. And I feel, one more point, I feel it's to do with conditioning, why we want to have somebody else redeem us. It's like the redeemer complex. I can go back to Akhenaten when he was an Egyptian pharaoh, and he wanted to get rid of the high priest class because he says your connection is past the sun. People say he was a sun worshipper, but I think when you really look at his words, it's a, your connection's past the sun, and you can make that connection for yourself. You don't need these people here. And obviously he was thrown out because the money interests said, no, we can't have this, get him out of the way. And I feel it's part of our conditioning that we've thinking that we can't do this is too hard, we can't do this. But you're right, when I get my clients speaking to me saying, I see this now, oh yeah, I can do that, and then they do little bits more. And it's mainly women I work with as well, but it's those little breakthroughs, and their relationships with their children improve, the relationships with their husband improves, the relationships with their work improves, and they become leaders, like you say, because women have this ability to more right brain to see across the whole spectrum, whereas men are like really cut and thrust and they go forward. Women have this overall sort of feminine aspect of, because they're built like that, it's designed to be like that, which is leadership quality, to see the family, the whole family as a like a whole entity. And I think that's so important for us to understand that. Would you say that?
Oh, absolutely. Like women, and any woman will tell you this. She wears, 100 hats in a day. She's a nurse, she's a teacher, she's a, there's just so many roles that we play. And one of the biggest roles we play is looking after the emotions of others. And a lot of women feel responsible for the responses, and they they don't know anything better but to deal with the behavior of their children instead of actually looking what's behind the behavior.
Yes.
And so often when I guide women, she'll turn up with a specific issue. Oh, my son, threw a ball through the neighbour's window or whatever deliberately. And it's like, okay, well, let's look at what's behind the behavior. And often it's the shame. And then the mother doesn't know how to talk to him about it later. And so I'll guide her to talk to the shame, right? Talk to actually the emotion that he's experiencing and experienced at that time. So we are leaders. And the more that we can bring those leadership skills that we learn in the work arena or any other area of our lives and bring it into the home and into our mothering, to balance out that masculine feminine energy is one of the best things we can do. And
Mm,
and the world depends on it. The world depends on how mothers show up. And kids crave a mother who has a regulated nervous system, who provides safety, a safe space,
mm,
so
mm,
that they can be creative and they can be curious, which is
yeah,
ultimately what
yeah.
humans, this is us in the green zone, right? When we're
Mm,
creative, curious, compassionate, that's us at our best. That's
mm.
what we want to be aiming for, not all the outside stuff.
Yeah, but the nervous system is fascinating to me because I feel we're stuck in the sympathetic nervous state all the time at the moment. And
Mm,
mothers doing with that, you got all this cortisol in the body. That cortisol would
mm,
be coming through into the baby. They'd be picking up on that. And there was a research. I haven't looked into it actually. I just heard it from a friend. So this is hearsay at the moment. It's called Spain, Spane. And they were looking into, these scientists were looking into what was the biggest emitter from us as human beings. Now, I would have said love, the heart. But actually, the biggest emitter is authenticity, which is we pick up on other people's authenticity. So if you, as a mother, are trying to be something, like you were saying, people pleasing, or trying to hide something from your child it will be picking up that straight away, because they go, "What is that all about?" And then you start to try to dictate the rules to them, and then the child will go, "Don't understand that because it doesn't sound," which is what I was like, doesn't sound like you're doing that. So why are you telling me to do that? Is that sort of,
that's a really good point you make, is that often, women will be saying one thing, and it comes back to that energy and the emotional being side, but they'll be showing up in a different way, and often without realizing it. So it's that, um, what's in the conscious and what's in the subconscious. And 95% of the time, as you know, we're living in the subconscious state. So
yeah,
the kids are picking up on all these subconscious patterns that often we're not aware of. And
mm,
they're sitting there going, hang on, it's not congruent with what she's saying or trying to teach me. It's not aligned. And that's where that bond gets chipped away at, right? So
mm,
when mothers show up authentically, and then they can identify their hidden triggers, they can identify those unconscious patterns because they have the tools, they have the method, right? Then they're able to show up more authentically. And then a beautiful, unbreakable bond is formed because the kids know it's aligned.
mm,
Everything makes a lot more sense. And
mm,
and kids who, one of the first things I do, and it is the first part of my program when women come into the program, is we learn about the nervous system. It's the first thing we do because I can't help them delve into the what are the subconscious patterns and what are your hidden triggers until you're in that green zone. So you're out of that fight flight, out of that freeze, or in particular the fawn, which is the people pleasing, which is putting everyone else's needs first before your own.
mm,
Once I get them out of that and back into the green zone, which is that place of curiosity and compassion and creativity, then they're able to do the rest of the work, which is
mm,
connecting with your emotions, realizing what stored emotions are in your body and knowing how to release them.
mm,
Um, and like you, I take a community yin yoga class, which is a very low level to the ground emotional release work. Although when people enter the class, they come in for the physical. And what we're really doing is working on their nervous system. And they're surprising that the class, like each week, is about 30 people in it, men and women, and they come back and come back each week and go, I just feel a lot calmer. And it's like, absolutely, because what you're doing is you're releasing the emotions that are stored in your body without even
mm,
realizing it. You're trusting your body, and your body's doing the work for you. You're just remaining in poses in stillness and giving it the chance to
mm.
release what's held in the body. So yeah, really, really beautiful work. And encourage anyone to do the Ki Gong or the Yin Yoga or anything like that because it's a really great start to
Anything, yeah.
access. Yeah, anything. That's right.
Anything, just do somatics, whatever whatever you like to do. A friend of mine didn't like Ki Gong because he thought, oh, it sounds too spiritual to him because he's very intellectual. So he's taken up Pilates actually. And
Mm.
now, since he's been doing that, he's sounding a lot more spiritual when he's conversing with me. And I'm going, this is interesting how you're changing because all of this information is stored in the body. And there's been some scientific research into where it's stored. And some people are coming to the theory of it's stored in the water. As you think about we're 75% water and water holds memory, our blueprint, obviously, of our energetic self comes out into the water. So if this water's all messed up, it would be seeping back down into the energetic blueprint so that we think it's us. And it's fooling us to think that it's us. So when we actually start to clear that water and keep refreshing it, and we do it with tapping, which helps to stimulate the mitochondria. But any way you stimulate your mitochondria through stretching or anything like that, you're bringing new energy into the body all the time. You're breathing, so you're bringing new energy into the body all the time, and you're refreshing the energy. And that's what these practices do. The mind, body, spirit practices refresh the energy of the body. So therefore, you will feel calmer because all of these old emotions and feelings and preconceptions that we've got are starting to shed from your body. So you go, I feel different, which is what I was saying about one of the ladies who comes to my class. I go, yeah, I feel really different. I said, yes, you will. And it's really difficult to get people to really get that because they go, oh, it's all a bunch of woo-woo stuff. And they're getting confused with the wu wei, the Chinese wu wei, which means action, non-action. It means you don't have to try and actually physically act on fixing something. You can actually physically act on yourself to fix it, as it were.
Mm.
There's like no action. You don't have to take action outwards. You take action inwards, which is kind of wu wei. You don't have to do anything but work on yourself. And it's true because everything is like a reflection. Our world is a reflection to us and it reflects back to us. So if you've got,
Mm.
if you, I can imagine your clients looking at your children and suddenly getting this beautiful reflection back going, once they've done the inner work, going, wow. And then reporting back to you, it just gives me goosebumps just thinking about that, thinking how beautiful.
Yeah, that's right. One of the biggest things, it does give me goosebumps too, Peter. One of the biggest things is that um, the biggest cry of women is, oh, my kids aren't listening. My kids don't listen to me. I can't control them. And when I take them through the process of, the inner work, one of the things they come back with is, oh, my kids just listen. They just do what I say now. Like it's so much easier. Like obviously not all the time, but like, a good dose of the time. And that's because it actually had nothing to do with your kids in the first place, right? It all starts with us. It all starts with you. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to get women past that. Oh, but it's so selfish to take time out for myself to work on myself.
Mm,
Or oh, if I work on myself, the whole family's going to fall apart. I'm going to fall apart. It doesn't have to be that way. We can do it in the most gentle way. Um, I work with women in groups, and at first they're often reticent, but once they get in the group, they all leave going, "Oh, it was the best thing ever having a sisterhood to support me,"
mm.
and like because they learn from each other. It's like the whole sitting around the fire in the old days and sharing the stories and the knowledge from the sage elders, etc. And one of the women in one of my groups a year ago, she had breast cancer, and she has been cured of breast cancer. And she was actually in her breast cancer journey while she was in the group. And she realized the reason she had this was just that patterning of never tending to herself. And she
Yeah.
learned it was a generational pattern. And she just said, it was all about worth. I thought in order to feel worthy, in order to feel loved, I had to do this, 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 and this for everybody else. And then one day she just showed up and said, that's why I've got breast cancer,
Mm,
you know, and that's how it's physically manifested for me. Um, and it was so wonderful for the group to witness her go through
mm.
this and then get cleared at the end. And she's off and away and she's uh, reclaimed her identity and herself and gone back to her land. And she's just done a beautiful
Oh, wonderful.
transformation. Yeah. So it's
Because
everyone
about
gets what they came for when they're courageous enough to say yes to
yes,
themselves.
but it's it's not just that our brains or our energy that's perceptive. Every single cell in your body is perception. It's all based on perception. If you look at the work of Bruce Lipton, when you've got things approaching cells, they perceive whether it's safe or not, or whether they're going to have to deal with it or not, or everything is perception. So
Mm.
what we say in our practice, good news always makes a good brain. So if you think about that, that makes sense. If you get good news, i.e., you get, I don't know, there's a birth in the family or there's a party coming up, whatever, you get excited, endless energy, brain picks up, you get into organization mode. What am I going to wear? What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. It's all exciting. Like good news always makes a good brain. Bad news always makes a bad brain, which will make a bad body. So if we really go around and chew the cud of like, this is where I fell into because my mother died from a messed up operation, a gallbladder operation where they left gallstones in the gallbladder and she got cancer. And then there was all this talk about, well, cancer's in your genes. Is it? Is it in your genes? Because I was thinking, well, am I going to get cancer? Am I going to get? And if I'd have carried on thinking like that, I probably would have done because you were thinking, I was thinking that into the body. But then I realized that these thoughts aren't mine. They're not mine. So you learn how to distinguish them, let them go, and actually start to focus on the thoughts that are you. How am I going to make this better for my children? How am I going to make this better for my relationship? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And you become more conscientious and more connected with yourself, which is when you do that, you realize the energy inside of you is much the same as everybody else's energy. Is all the masters that I've trained with my Ki Gong, like the masters at Body and Brain, the masters at Sunday. There's something about them that is very similar. It doesn't matter if it's male or female, it's irrelevant. There's something very similar about them that's really connected inside that is so compassionate and loving, but also so observatory. They just observe you. And then they will, if they've got something positive to say, even if it's on a negative aspect, to say, well, you need to be looking at that because of this, you go, wow, yeah, okay, I didn't see that. And this is where we're going. I think personally, we're all guiding each other home. That's my whole take on this whole human race. And there's a really big part for all of us to play. Women, I personally think, have been squashed in this society that we live in today. That needs to come back into balance. I feel that we need to start to learn to lead our own lives and to listen to other people who have good things to say about where we should be going with our lives and listen to each other more, hear each other, actually hear each other. Because I was thinking about that this morning is how throwaway this society is today. You'll meet someone nice, you go, oh, that was good, and then you're off. They're going to go over there. And yes, a part of that is because we have our own communities, but I don't think it has to be like that. I think once you make a connection, you can keep that connection. And to me, it's like friends I've had all my life. I see them again. It's like I've never left their company. It's like, oh, well, you haven't changed at all. So, well, but you've grown. Someone said to me, who hadn't seen me for about 15 years, said, well, you've really grown into yourself. I said, because I'm working in here. I'm working in here. And I think
Mm.
it's an enormous compliment for everybody to say. What would you say to take away for anybody listening to you now? What would be the biggest thing that they can start to do? I know you've covered it, but if you want to cover it
Yeah,
again,
no,
it's
no.
fine.
And just what you just shared. Thank you for sharing that. It's lovely. And, I love the way you use the word letting go of your thoughts. And, what I do teach women is it is a whole mind body connection. Um, but it starts with your thoughts. And at any moment, you can change your thought. You get to choose which thoughts you want to have because those thoughts turn into feelings, those feelings turn into actions, and those actions give you the results. And as you say, the results in all your life, the ripple effect it has on your relationships, people in your community, your work, your
Mm,
children. It's just incredible. And it all starts with that thought. And being able to if you can take on any practice or any program or anything that helps you strengthen that mind body connection, and then start living it every single day. There's not a day that goes by where I don't do one thing towards my emotional health, towards that
mm,
mind body connection.
mm,
And the moment I do is when things start to go skewer. So it's like anything. If you want to build biceps, then you work on it every day. You go to the gym, right?
Yes.
So yeah. So I guess my last words are: if life's not showing up, or if you're not showing up in life the way that you want to, the way in a way that you're not proud of, or you just feel icky about, or it doesn't feel great. Maybe there's some physical, maybe it's physical, maybe it's behavioral, maybe it's mental, maybe it's emotional. It doesn't have to stay that way. You have the power to change it. You can become your own self healer.
Mm. Beautiful, beautiful words. My sentiments exactly. That's how I feel as well. Exactly how I feel. Amazing. And how do people get hold of you, Amanda, if they want to work with you or they want to know more about you? How do they get hold of you?
Yeah, sure. So I am body, mind, soul, body first, body, mind, soul.co.nz. Or if you go on Instagram, it's body, mind, soul _ emotional wisdom.
Body, mind, soul. I love that. I've just written a song called Human Human Spirit and Mind. Human spirit, which is much the same thing. So it is the mind, body, spirit, is however whatever words you want to use, but that's a
Yeah,
lovely, memorable way of putting it. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today, Amanda. You're a beautiful soul as well. So please do get in contact with Amanda if she's resonated with you, and I'm going to give you a virtual hug.
yeah, virtual hug, virtual
Yeah,
hug.
and we'll see you all very soon.